Do you love
automation and artificial intelligence?
Do you live
And breathe digital technology?
Do you have
Business savvy in your DNA? Nikki Gonzalez does, and she's a host of the Creators Lounge.
The Creators Lounge is proud to welcome Google Cloud.
Welcome back to the Creators Lounge. I have with me Luis Solano from Google Cloud today. Luis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nikki.
It's day 2 and the floor is buzzing. Day 1 yesterday was pretty crazy, pretty packed. Is this your first time at IMTS exhibiting as Google Cloud?
Yeah, so this is actually our first time at IMTS as an exhibitor, so we get that question a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity for people to understand what we're doing in manufacturing and how our technologies can help them achieve their goals with AI and data. So.
Well, what a great time to come and introduce you guys to this industry. Not that you're new in any way, but new here. Can you tell us, our audience and the people that are watching, a little bit about your history and what brings you here to talk about AI today?
Sure. So I'm an operations person by background. So I'm an industrial engineer by training. I've been a production supervisor, plant manager, VP of ops. I've owned P&Ls on the manufacturing side. So it's always been a passion of mine. And really what I try to do is help our brilliant engineers and technologists figure out how to solve the problems I've been trying to solve for 30 years in manufacturing, right? So whether it be trying to improve operations from a process standpoint, improve sales and operations planning, the opportunity exists today that to really take advantage of technology in a way that allows it to solve these things in a way that wasn't possible even 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, so I really appreciate the fact that you're not just a pure tech person or from the software AI background, because so many of our manufacturing challenges really are complex, and without that, experience in the plant or on the floor with the operational technology, we really need to kind of bridge those gaps, the language between, kind of the two sides of technology.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've seen all these manufacturers here over the last day. We talked a little bit about this. What are some of the main applications or some of the things that you've noticed that this new technology is really helping to solve that manufacturers here are embracing?
Well, I think first and foremost, one of the biggest challenges manufacturers are facing is that really we aren't able to hire all the people we need to fill these plants, right? So the labor scarcity is a problem. It's only going to get worse. So Bureau of Labor Statistics says that we're going to have over 2 million open manufacturing jobs by 2034. So that's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
So I think one of the challenges people are thinking about is how do I use AI to not only change the job so it's more attractive to the people I'm trying to hire, but also retain those folks and help them train in a different way, right? How do I use technology like AI to assist an operator to do some functions, right? It's not about replacing operators, it's about augmenting operators to improve their span of control and help them learn faster and add value from that perspective. So a big emphasis on that area.
That's absolutely a big thread that I've noticed in a lot of our other conversations here as well. And I will say I'm really excited to see the composition of this show this year. We have more women than have ever registered. We're at over 30%. Women in attendance here this year, and to have new exhibitors like you guys here as well, it really shows the rapid kind of change that the manufacturing sector is going under, and it's opening up. It's becoming a place where technologists are coming in. It's all kinds of people from all walks of life. Almost everything that we do is applicable to manufacturing in some way. So it's that I really appreciate that that's part of what you guys are looking at in terms of the problems that you're solving. It's not just the process. Right. It's the people side as well.
Yeah, the other aspect of the people side is that, and by the way, I was with a customer last night at dinner with the leadership team of the customer, and they were that leadership team consisted of 4 women for a manufacturing company. So I pointed that out in the dinner last night. But anyway, the other challenge of this is that, look, 25% of our workforce in the U.S. is over 55 in the manufacturing workforce, right? So the other labor issue is that the people who have this knowledge, this unstructured knowledge, i.e. the things in their head, are leaving the company, right? Yeah. So we also look at the opportunity to use AI to basically take that unstructured knowledge and make it structured, right? So help use these people to train models, to train AI to learn different aspects of the operation, so you take that knowledge and make it more of a structured and reproducible format overall.
Yeah, one of the things I've seen is we definitely have this gap in I would say, age gap, right? You have a lot of people that have been around in the industry. It's been their career. And when they started, that was the model. You take a job, you stay in that job, maybe you move up. And then today's young people, and they're looking at career fulfillment and new opportunities, and everything is available to them at their fingertips, right? So taking, the knowledge, both of the problems and of the processes of the last 30 to 40 years, and how do we make that something that we can translate to the new workforce? I think that's a huge opportunity for AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other point is that, you mentioned it already, is that the time to value is compressed, right? The average tenure is going to be 18 and 24 months, right?
Yeah.
So you can't take 9 months to train someone, right? You need to train someone within 1 or 2 months in order to basically make them efficient and productive as quickly as possible. And really, there's a role for AI in all these things, right? We have to start slow. It's not a magic button, in spite of what people say.
Yeah.
But the technology is maturing very rapidly. The things I'm talking about today, we weren't talking about 6 months ago. And so we definitely have high hopes for using this tool to really drive and improve labor productivity, not only in how people work, but also changing the jobs themselves to make them more attractive, and really trying to figure out how to way to make knowledge much more structured in the operation side of things.
Great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and dive more into what problems we're really solving here. So we'll be right back.
Everybody in the 313, put your manufacturing hands up and follow me, because we're going to season 3 of Road Tripping with Steve. This is awesome. I've never been in an automotive facility like this. Hello? Hi, this is Road Tripping with Steve. I need to leave and go let my head cool down. The Robo Drill is seriously one of my favorite machines.
Brand new program, call it whatever you want.
Steve's program.
All right.
Can you take it past 100%? Do it again.
All right. So you mentioned that you've been, a plant manager. You've been in that OT position in operations for a while now. This is, not the beginning of your career. What types of problems have you been trying to solve that you really see now is the time to be able to solve with AI?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that the first thing is, you mentioned the labor problems earlier, but the other thing is that we tend to, in manufacturing, I'm using we as a manufacturers in general in the U.S., we tend to collect a lot of data, but really not derive a lot of value from it, right? So think about something as simple as a historian. Most people have an historian. They typically use that data set to research when they have a customer complaint or failure. And frankly, unfortunately, most of the time, it comes back that you can't find a root cause, right?
Yeah.
But so I have information that says this was the settings of a machine when I ran it. This telemetry settings gave me a good run. I had a good run of a product. Why can't I just use AI to help me understand what telemetry settings make sense and give the best output given these parameters, right? So we've helped customers take all the historical data from a historian, train the model on what was a good run, what was a bad run based on settings, and now let the model say, based on what's happening today, what are the right settings here, right? It's kind of the golden product, golden batch concept. So that's kind of an area that I think is very important to solve, because we lose so much productivity in manufacturing with just simply operators making adjustments because they want to run the line the way they run it, right? Within the parameters of quality control, but still a lot of loss there. I think the other area is that, and this is kind of where you tie in IT data with OT data. If you think about a customer complaint today from a manufacturing company, you take a look at that complaint, it gets assigned to a quality engineer. He or she has to go through and look at different data sets across different systems. It takes them weeks to figure out a connection between what happened in the manufacturing floor and the customer defect.
Yeah.
If you tie IT and OT data together, with things like Google's Cortex framework, you're able to very quickly understand how those things are linked. And something that will take you weeks today may take you 5 minutes, right? So that's the goal, to really get closer to the customer on the manufacturing side, not make this a information that gets to you via the sales or operations planning process. It may take a month or two in most cases.
So some of these use cases really aren't new and novel. They're about improving efficiency in current operations and maybe shaving a lot of time and making decisions timely rather than something that you have to dig through and do in retrospect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest advice I give customers is solve the problems you have today. You don't have to find a unique use case for Gen AI or for data or AI in general. Solve the problems you're trying to solve today, and I think they're out there. The technology can help. It's all about baby steps and phases, but ultimately we're about trying to solve the same problems you're trying to have. The reality, we just did actually a Gen AI or ROI and Gen AI report survey that we published recently. So 2 in 5 customers in the manufacturing side are beyond production in a Gen AI use case. So there's early days.
Yeah.
1 in 10 haven't even started yet. So again, it's very early days. It seems like because of all the hype where people are making a lot of progress, but the reality is we're still learning. There's still opportunity to learn from each other overall. And the main advice I give people is make sure you're trying to solve a real problem, not create a problem to use Gen AI on. Okay?
Yeah, so definitely the place to start is to solve specific problems that you have.
Yeah.
Ideally, or oftentimes ones that the right technology hasn't been there and you've been trying to solve them for a long time. Once you kind of move beyond that first step and you've really got your data together, you've solved some immediate problems, there is an opportunity though, right, for AI to kind of find new opportunities in data once you have, like looking at patterns and things like that. Are there, what are some of the more magical things that can happen further in the future once an organization is a little bit more mature in having their data together and using Gen AI to solve some of these operational problems?
Right, and that's the power, right? The power is basically I'm going to be able to use technology to find patterns that I'm not even looking for, right? Historically, we've used things like regression analysis, simplex tables, OR type tools, and you have to know what you're looking for to find an answer, right?
Yeah.
So the goal is, first, 2 things you have to change, right? We have to think of the data as a proxy for the process and the product, meaning that all the data you created in the manufacturing floor, regardless of where it's coming from, is an indication of the process. And if you think that way, then you say, okay, how do I use AI to oversee that process by looking at the data and help me understand where things are different, right? What is this data created today or right now accurate? Do I have a shadow process because data was created in the wrong sequence, right? These are all the things that happen every day in manufacturing. We know what's happening, we can't really tell. AI can be the oversight engine for that data set that's a proxy for the process, like I said, and really give you opportunities to figure out, hey, this is something we can be more efficient here if we just change the order of the step, or different approaches to basically change the process based on the data itself.
Yeah, so are you going beyond sort of specific problem solving to really, at that point, it helping you enable more innovation, right?
Exactly.
More competitiveness. So we'll be right back to talk a little bit more about the specifics of how to get into this if you're just getting started.
Great.
Welcome to the World According to. Join me, Peter Eelman, and Travis Egan of AMT while we travel across the U.S. and talk with leaders of the manufacturing technology industry. Meet these renowned visionaries in personal, up-close settings. Hear how their passion for manufacturing took root and has continued to fuel the ideas that shape our industry today and tomorrow. Watch now and hear how these leaders answer the question, The World According to, only on IMTS Plus.
right, so let's talk about practical implementation and cost. To be honest, that's a big part of it. Whether manufacturers can jump on this bandwagon now and how it makes sense to them, understanding the cost and how to allocate it is really important. Can we talk a little bit about those use cases and how you see the right way of understanding what the cost and the ROI is of implementing AI?
I think it's a great question. I think we have an opportunity for a fundamental shift how we think about IT costs in manufacturing, right? Today I talk to customers and say, you know what, I need to spend some money to get my foundation at the right level, and then I can figure out what the use cases are. The use cases are going to bring the ROI. But I like people to think about it in a different way. If you're making, whatever you're making, let's assume that you're going to use AI to oversee a process. Those cloud consumption costs now become part of cost of goods sold.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't take those costs and say, you know what, this is going to add 1 cent per unit to my product. It's just the cost of doing business, no pun intended, and really drive the conversation that way, right? Because I think one of the things that holds us back is the idea that our cost standard systems rely on using the asset. It relies on transferring costs based on units, and sometimes we think that anything related to IT is an overhead that we have to justify, and it's hard to justify.
Yeah.
I think we do reverse that or change that equation by saying it's not an overhead. It's actually the cost of making the product, and the conversation changes dramatically.
It does, and I've seen this with problems with plant managers being able to get budget for maintenance and upgrades and things, for instance, because just the kind of split between the way IT budgets and the way OT budgets, and I think we've really changed how we manufacture, and I think the way we look at the finances has to change as well, so that we can actually incorporate, because the OT and IT worlds are converging, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And there are differences, right, in how you look at it from a business standpoint.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that ultimately we have to think about this as something that's going to be continuously running in your manufacturing floor. I tell customers today that within 5 years, you're going to have 25 to 30 ML models running in any given plant.
Yeah.
And we're going to go from, we're very focused on use case identification and development now, but 5 years from now, it's going to be about governance and oversight, right? So if you think of it that way, then you say, okay, well, this is just the cost of doing business and running my plant, and therefore I should be thinking about it that way in terms of how it's accounted for overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And then order of operations. I know we've talked about use cases, right? Tackling a use case a problem you've already had, something that you've been trying to solve. But I like this. There are building blocks, right? And depending on where you are in your maturity,
right,
you need to start in the right place. You don't just jump immediately into trying to have an AI model, find opportunities for you. How do you think about how customers or manufacturers should plan what use cases to tackle? And is there a sequence that matters there, or do you just go for your biggest problem first?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think as manufacturers, we tend to be very focused on execution, which is we have an idea, let's go learn and do it. But I think you have to take a step back and think about this in a couple of ways. One is get a list of use cases together, i.e. a backlog, right? And really prioritize them based on the level of effort in terms of how much work it takes to get there and the value it brings back to the business. If you prioritize them or matrix them that way, 2 by 2, then you got a better sense of what you have out there. It's important to have multiple use cases and look at them at the same time, or at once, I should say, because the sequence matters, right? You may have a use case that is your number 1 priority in terms of value, but it may make sense to do number 5, 6, and 7 in value just to be able to get to number 1 faster, right? So having a holistic view of everything you're thinking about doing, and this is a living document, so you're constantly taking away from that backlog based on business changes and adding to that backlog as things progress also, right? So that's a key differentiator. You have to think about this not as an individual project that you're going to go after. Think of it as a living process and transformation that you're constantly adjusting based on what's happening around you in the plant.
Wow, that's a really good way of putting it. Well, as much as I would love to ask you 10 more questions, we're almost out of time. So I'll wrap it up with this. Can you tell us just briefly what we can expect to see from you or Google forward that we should be paying attention to as we say goodbye here in our limited time in the Creators Lounge?
Well, thanks. Well, Google Cloud is a data and AI company, and we see a tremendous opportunity for continued growth in AI. Our goal is to figure out how to use our expertise in that area and make it applicable to manufacturers. Make it easy to use. We want you to use these tools with the people you have, not the people you have to hire.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's our focus. We're going to build on what we have already and look forward to doing that.
All right. Well, I recommend everybody find Luis, connect with him on LinkedIn, go to the Google booth to talk to them about this. And thank you so much for joining me in the Creators Lounge.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more amazing interviews all of today with my fellow creators. Thank you, guys.